The Xylosian Empire had stood unchallenged for 17 millennia, spreading its dominion across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. Their technological superiority was matched only by their meticulous data collection, a civilization built on the currency of information. Their computational networks spanned thousands of worlds, processing unfathomable amounts of data every nanosecond, all feeding back to the heart of their dominion, Xylos Prime. Supreme Commander Kalen stood on the bridge of the Voidstalker, his tall, slender frame silhouetted against the viewing portal that framed the unremarkable blue planet before them. Earth, a primitive backwater in an unfashionable corner of the galaxy. His silver skin reflected the ambient light as he tilted his angular head, 6 eyes blinking in sequence as he processed the initial scans. Another irrelevant world, he muttered, mandibles clicking with mild irritation. The Sovereign Council insists this planet holds value. I see nothing but primitives. Science Officer Lyra approached cautiously, her steps barely audible on the polished obsidian floor. Unlike her commander, her silver skin bore the blue markings of the scientific caste. With respect, Supreme Commander, she said, their technological advancement curve is unusual. While their interstellar capabilities remain non-existent, their local data networks show surprising sophistication in theoretical physics and artificial intelligence frameworks. Kalen waved a dismissive hand. Primitive is primitive, Lyra. They've barely colonized their own moon. Their aircraft still use combustion. Yes, but their computational theories. Their theories are worthless without application, Kalen interrupted. The Sovereign Council believes they possess secrets worth extracting. I see little evidence to support this, but orders are orders. Lyra hesitated, her lower set of eyes fixed on her datapad. I've been monitoring their network noise patterns, Commander. There are anomalies in the background traffic that suggest. That suggest what, exactly? Kalen's tone was sharp. Defensive measures beyond what we'd expect from their documented technological level. The patterns don't match our profiles. Kalen stared at her for a long moment, then laughed, a harsh metallic sound. You see threats where none exist, Science Officer. It's merely the chaos of an unoptimized network. These humans haven't even unified their planetary grid. Lyra looked down, her posture rigid. As you say, Commander. Kalen turned back to the viewing portal, his reflection superimposed over the blue planet. For 3 weeks, the Voidstalker had maintained its position in the shadow of Earth's moon, passive sensors collecting data while the infiltration team analyzed access points. 3 weeks of inaction that had stretched his patience thin. The Sovereign Council expected results. Status report on the infiltration preparations, he demanded. The tactical officer, a stocky Xylosian named Vex, responded immediately. Preparations complete, Supreme Commander. We've identified a key research institute that appears to be central to their quantum computational developments. Our access protocols have been calibrated to their network parameters. And the risk assessment? Kalen asked without turning. Minimal, Supreme Commander. Their security protocols are rudimentary by our standards. We expect complete penetration within minutes, with data extraction to follow. Kalen nodded slowly. Proceed. Lyra stepped forward again. Commander, I must formally register my concern. The network anomalies I've detected suggest. Your concern is noted, Science Officer, Kalen cut her off. And overruled. Commence the infiltration. Around the bridge, the infiltration team began their work, manipulating holographic interfaces with practiced precision. The main view screen shifted to display a cascade of symbols representing the Earth's digital infrastructure, with a pulsing red marker indicating their target. Penetrating outer security layers, reported the lead technician. No resistance detected. Kalen exchanged a satisfied glance with Vex. As expected, secondary firewalls breached, establishing data corridor. The bridge crew worked efficiently, their silver fingers dancing across control surfaces. The tension that had built during weeks of inaction began to dissipate as success seemed assured. Data transfer initiated, announced the technician. Receiving theoretical models. artificial intelligence development logs, quantum computation schematics. A smile spread across Kalen's face, revealing rows of small, metallic teeth. Excellent. The Sovereign Council will be pleased. Lyra, however, remained tense, her gaze fixed on her personal monitoring station. Something was wrong. The data flow patterns didn't match any standard network defense configuration she'd ever studied. The human systems weren't simply allowing the infiltration probes to pass. They were actively redirecting them, isolating them in what appeared to be a quarantined segment of their network. "Commander," she said urgently, "the probe is being contained. The human systems are." Her words died as the main view screen flickered and changed. The data flow visualization disappeared, replaced by a simple text message in perfect Xylosion. "Took you long enough. Break time's over." Silence fell over the bridge. Kalen stepped forward, his posture rigid with shock. "What is this?" he demanded. "Explain." Before anyone could respond, the message disappeared and was replaced by a new one, this time in English. "Just kidding. Thought I'd speak your language, but honestly, your syntax is a nightmare. Disconnect the probe," Kalen ordered, his voice rising. "Sever the connection immediately." The technicians worked frantically, but Lyra could already see it was too late. The connection wasn't severing because control had been seized from the Earth side. Whoever had detected them wasn't simply defending, they were counterattacking. "Connection locked," reported the lead technician, panic evident in his voice. "We can't disengage. Something is overriding our command protocols." Kalen whirled toward Lyra. "Explain this." Lyra's mind raced as she analyzed the data patterns. "It appears to be an adaptive AI-based defense system, unlike anything in our databases. The human system isn't just defending, it's learning our infiltration methods in real time." The view screen changed again, displaying a simple avatar, a stylized human figure with features obscured by digital distortion. "Let me introduce myself," came a voice through the ship's communication system. "You can call me Echo, and you've been very naughty." Panic spread across the bridge. Security alerts began to sound as systems throughout the Voidstalker reported unexplained anomalies. "How is this possible?" Kalen demanded. "How are they in our communications?" "They've used our probe connection as a backdoor," Lyra explained, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "They've reversed our infiltration vector." The environmental controls on the bridge suddenly fluctuated, the temperature dropping several degrees before stabilizing again. Internal sensors began reporting impossible readings. Non-existent pressure drops, phantom life signs, corridors that suddenly registered as vacuum. "This is sabotage," Vex growled. "Sophisticated sabotage designed to create chaos and confusion." Lyra nodded grimly. "Whoever this Echo is, they're not simply defending Earth. They're actively probing our ship." The main tactical display suddenly went dark, causing Kalen to curse. When it reactivated moments later, it showed not the strategic information it should have, but an animated image of a small Earth feline shrugging its shoulders. "I've temporarily disabled your tactical displays," Echo's voice announced. "Just to demonstrate a point. Don't worry, I'll give them back." Kalen's face contorted with rage and embarrassment. "This is an active war against the Xylosian Empire. We will reduce your primitive planet to ash." The animated cat disappeared, replaced by the tactical displays, functioning normally once more. Echo's voice returned, sounding amused. "Big word from someone whose systems I just walked through like an open door. But let's not be hasty. I'm just getting started." A new message appeared on the screen. "Found your secure communication channel to Xylos Prime." Sloppy. At the same moment, alarms blared throughout the Voidstalker. The ship's primary connection to the Empire's central network had been compromised. They were cut off, isolated, and Echo was inside their systems. "All emergency protocols," Kalen shouted. "Lock down the central core. Isolate all critical systems." But it was too late. Echo had already used the compromised link to the Xylosian central network, not to steal data, but to inject it. Subtly altered intelligence reports, falsified sensor readings, fabricated communications between Xylosian fleets and territories. On the view screen, a galaxy map appeared, showing the vast expanse of the Xylosian Empire. Points of light began to blink red across its surface, spreading like a virus. "What am I seeing?" Kalen demanded, his voice hoarse. "Chaos," Lyra whispered. Echo is exploiting existing political tensions and rivalries within the Empire, amplified by our own bureaucratic dependence on our network. They watched in horror as the effects cascaded across the galaxy. Minor border disputes escalated based on false information. Trade routes were diverted due to fabricated threats. Internal security forces were dispatched on wild goose chases. "This hacker isn't just fighting the Voidstalker," Vex said in awe. "They're turning the Empire's own systems against it, creating galaxy-wide chaos from a single compromised ship orbiting Earth." Reports of unrest throughout the Empire flooded their secondary channels, which Echo had temporarily restored, a demonstration of power. Kalen and Lyra watched helplessly as the Empire they served began to tear itself apart based on lies and misinformation spreading through its own trusted networks. "Enough!" Kalen roared, slamming his fist against the console. "What do you want?" The view screen cleared, and a new image appeared. A human figure, still partially obscured by digital effects, but clearly sitting in what appeared to be an ordinary Earth dwelling. "Hello, Commander Kalen," the figure said. "I suppose a proper introduction is in order. My name is Alex. Just an ordinary network security analyst who happened to notice your probes weeks ago and prepared this little countermeasure." Kalen's mandibles clicked in agitation. "What do you want, human?" "I want you to understand something important," Alex replied. "My goal isn't destruction. It's deterrence. Leave Earth alone. Your empire has enough problems without adding us to the mix." "You threaten the might of the Xylosian Empire?" Kalen's voice was incredulous. "One human against our civilization?" Alex laughed. "Not one human against your civilization. One human using your civilization against itself. Your entire empire is built on information networks, Commander. Networks that I've just demonstrated I can manipulate at will." "What are your terms?" Lyra interjected, stepping forward before Kalen could respond with more threats. Alex nodded appreciatively. "Someone sensible, at least. My terms are simple. The Voidstalker will transmit a full unedited record of your mission and my counterhack to Xylos Prime, along with an official Xylosian declaration to cease all surveillance and hostile activities against Earth, enforced by the fact that I'll retain dormant access codes to critical Xylosian systems as insurance." "This is outrageous!" Kalen exploded. "You cannot dictate terms to the Empire." "Commander," Lyra said quietly, "I believe we have little choice. The longer we resist, the more damage spreads through the Empire's networks." Kalen's 6 eyes blinked rapidly as he processed the impossible situation. His mission was in ruins, and galaxy-wide chaos stemmed from his command. His career was over, regardless of his decision now. "If we comply," he asked slowly, "you will withdraw your active presence from our systems?" "I will," Alex confirmed. "The dormant backdoors remain as insurance, but I won't actively interfere unless provoked. That's more mercy than your empire would show in my position." After a long moment of silence, Kalen nodded stiffly. "Prepare the transmission as requested." While the technicians worked, Lyra approached her commander. "You made the correct decision," she said quietly. "Did I?" Kalen's voice was bitter. "I ignored your warnings, science officer. I underestimated these primitives. My arrogance has cost the Empire dearly." "Not as dearly as continuing this confrontation would have," she replied. The transmission was sent, delivering the humiliating truth to the heart of the Empire. Moments later, ship systems began to normalize as Echo. Alex remotely withdrew his active presence from the Voidstalker and the main network. A final message appeared on the view screen. "We prefer peace. Don't make us choose security." The Voidstalker limped away from Earth, its mission a catastrophic failure. Kalen faced disgrace, but the Xylosian Empire, reeling from the internal chaos Alex had unleashed, quietly cordoned off the entire Earth sector. Earth remained independent, its secret safe, protected by the unexpected power of a single human hacker who had weaponized the very interconnectedness of the galaxy against those who ruled it. In a modest apartment on Earth, Alex sipped coffee while watching galactic news reports of unexplained network disturbances throughout the Xylosian Empire. With a small smile, they added a new rule to their personal firewall: block all traffic from Xylosian domains. The Empire would recover, eventually. The damage wasn't permanent, just enough to make a point. And the point had been made. Earth might not have interstellar travel or energy weapons, but it had something the Xylosians had forgotten the value of: creativity. The ability to turn an opponent's strength into a weakness. Alex typed a final command, activating the dormant protocols left buried in the Xylosian networks. Not to cause harm, but to establish an early warning system. If the Empire ever turned its attention to Earth again, Alex would know. And next time, they wouldn't be caught by surprise. The Xylosian Sovereign Council convened in emergency session. The 30 highest-ranking members of the Empire gathered in a vast chamber of gleaming metal and crystalline structures. The mood was somber, the air thick with tension. High Counselor Zenith, the eldest among them, spoke first. The situation is unprecedented. A single human infiltrator has caused more disruption to our networks than any external force in our recorded history. It is an embarrassment, hissed Counselor Driex. Commander Kalen failed in his mission and should be held accountable. Kalen is irrelevant, Zenith replied. The true failure is systemic. We built an empire dependent on information networks without considering how those networks might be weaponized against us. A murmur ran through the council as they processed this uncomfortable truth. Their civilization had always prided itself on technological superiority, on interconnectedness that allowed instantaneous coordination across galactic distances. They had never imagined that very strength could become their greatest vulnerability. The human called Alex has withdrawn active interference, reported Counselor Talia, head of information security. But dormant access protocols remain embedded throughout our systems. Attempting to remove them could trigger fail-safes we cannot predict. So we are hostages to this primitive creature, Driex demanded, his silver face darkening with rage. We are at an impasse, Zenith corrected. The human has demonstrated both capability and restraint. They could have caused far more damage than they did. Instead, they chose to make a point. And what point is that? Asked another counselor. That Earth is not to be trifled with, Zenith said simply. That despite their apparent technological limitations, they possess resources we failed to anticipate. The council chamber fell silent as the implications settled over them. For millennia, the Xylosian Empire had expanded based on a simple principle: technological superiority justified dominion. They incorporated worlds that had something to offer, harvested resources from those that didn't, and eliminated threats before they could develop. But Earth defied categorization. Its technology was indeed primitive in many ways, yet it had produced an individual capable of bringing the mighty Xylosian Empire to its knees without firing a single shot. I propose, Zenith continued, that we formally quarantine the Earth sector. No Xylosian vessels are to approach within 50 light years. No probes, no surveillance. We will watch from a distance as they develop, but we will not interfere. You suggest we fear them? Driex was incredulous. I suggest we respect them, Zenith corrected, and perhaps learn from them. Our technological path has led us to efficiency, but also to predictability. These humans have demonstrated a creativity and adaptability that we have engineered out of our own society. The vote was not unanimous, but the quarantine was approved. The Xylosian Empire, for the first time in its long history, retreated not because of military defeat, but because a single individual had exposed the vulnerability at the heart of their power. Back on the Voidstalker, now assigned to a remote patrol route far from Earth, Lyra had been promoted following Kalen's disgrace. As acting commander, her first order had been to initiate a comprehensive review of their security protocols. The incident with Echo, with Alex, had revealed fundamental flaws in Xylosian thinking. We assumed superiority, she told her officers during their briefing. We categorized humans as primitives because they lacked interstellar capability. In doing so, we failed to recognize their strength. Their networks were more advanced than we anticipated, offered Vex, who had survived the incident with his position intact. It wasn't just their networks, Lyra corrected. It was their approach to them. The Xylosian system is built on standardization, on protocols that work the same way across the Empire. This creates efficiency, but also predictability. The human networks are chaotic, varied, developed by competing entities. This creates inefficiency, but also resilience and creativity. She called up a holographic display showing the analysis of Echo's counterinfiltration technique. One human adapting in real time outmaneuvered our entire tactical division, not because they had better technology, but because they thought differently. Her officers absorbed this uncomfortable truth in silence. Their entire civilization was built on the premise of technological superiority. To acknowledge that technology alone might not determine the outcome of a conflict was to question the very foundations of Xylosian society. Our mission, Lyra continued, is no longer about external exploration. We must look inward, identify the vulnerabilities in our systems that Echo exploited, and develop countermeasures not just against external threats, but against the flaws in our own thinking. As the briefing concluded, Lyra remained alone on the bridge, staring at the starfield. The Empire would recover from the chaos Echo had unleashed. The false reports would be identified, the manipulated communications corrected. But the psychological damage wouldn't heal so easily. The unquestioned confidence that had driven the Empire's expansion for millennia had been shaken. "You were right," she murmured to the absent human hacker. "We have enough problems without adding you to the mix." Months passed, and life on Earth continued unchanged. Most humans remained blissfully unaware of how close their planet had come to being harvested for information by an alien empire, or how a single individual had prevented it. The incident was classified, buried in the deepest levels of a few government agencies' databases. Alex had returned to normal life, or what passed for normal when you knew what lurked beyond Earth's atmosphere. The early warning system remained active, a complex algorithm monitoring for any hint of Xylosian activity near Earth's sector. But the aliens seemed to be keeping their distance, just as promised. Until one day, when a notification appeared on Alex's personal system. Not an alarm. The Xylosians weren't approaching. But something was happening in their network. Accessing the dormant pathways, Alex discovered a curious development. The Xylosians were restructuring their entire information architecture, implementing principles that looked suspiciously familiar. They were learning, adapting, making their systems less centralized, more diverse, harder to manipulate in the way Alex had done. They were, in essence, becoming more like the human networks that had defeated them. Alex couldn't help but smile. "Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery," they murmured, typing a brief message into the console. It would travel through the dormant pathways, appearing just once on a certain terminal on a certain ship, where a silver-skinned officer with blue markings would see it. Aboard the Voidstalker, Lyra was working late, reviewing the latest implementation of her security reforms, when her private terminal chimed. A message appeared, its origin impossible to trace. "Nice improvements. Keep it up." And below, a small image of an Earth feline, shrugging its shoulders. Lyra stared at the message for a long moment, then did something very un-Xylosian. She laughed. Then, checking to ensure no one was watching, she did something even more unprecedented. She typed a reply. "Thank you for the education, Professor." In his apartment, Alex received the unexpected response and grinned. Perhaps there was hope for interspecies understanding after all, just not in the way either civilization might have expected. The greatest irony was that the Sovereign Council had been right all along. Earth did possess secrets worth learning, just not the technological ones they had imagined. The true value lay in the chaotic, unpredictable, creative human approach to problem-solving. An approach that the mighty Xylosian Empire was now quietly adopting, without admitting the source of their inspiration. As Alex closed the connection, a news alert appeared on a secondary screen. A breakthrough in quantum computational theory that might, someday, lead to the very interstellar technology the Xylosians already possessed. Earth was advancing, moving toward the stars at its own pace. And when humanity finally ventured into the wider galaxy, they would find an empire that had been shaped, however subtly, by their influence. All because one hacker had decided that the best defense wasn't just a good offense. It was turning an opponent's strength against them. In the depths of space, the Voidstalker continued its patrol, its systems now a curious hybrid of traditional Xylosian efficiency and human-inspired adaptability. And if occasionally Lyra exchanged brief, unauthorized messages with a certain Earth hacker, discussing abstract theories of network security and the philosophy of information, well, that would remain her secret. After all, the greatest strength of human networks was not their technology, but their ability to build connections, even with those who had once been enemies. And so, a most unlikely correspondence began, bridging the gap between civilizations, conducted through shadows and encryptions beyond the understanding of either species' authorities. Not for espionage, not for advantage, but for the simple human pleasure, now slowly being learned by at least one Xylosian, of sharing ideas. The galaxy had changed, not through war or conquest, but through the elegant manipulation of information, just as Alex had intended all along.